Beloved Rapture is an RPG coming to Steam in 2024. Currently, you can play the first chapter of the game for free, and that is how I captured all the footage that I'll be showing today. I enjoyed my time with the demo, and I'm considering buying the full game on release. However, I did have some concerns in the 2 hours that I spent with the game, so we'll make sure to discuss that further. That way you can decide whether or not Beloved Rapture is going to be on your wish list or a cool game that you don't end up picking up. Let's start by talking about the most important part of the game, in my opinion, the gameplay. In Beloved Rapture, you spend your time either in battle or exploring the world. The starting village and area, Veretta, is a scenic mountain village. There is a ton of exploration to do here and lots of treasures to find. Not only will you need to find treasure chests in this game, but you'll also need to find ingredients and coins on the ground. So there is a lot of picking stuff up, for better or for worse. I enjoyed the exploration in the game, but I did have some trouble with the D-pad movement. You can only move in the cardinal directions, and at times I felt I got stuck moving in certain directions and had trouble making turns to go to a specific place. I also felt there were parts of the terrain that I should be able to traverse, but could not. The swimming was also a bit dull for me. You can enter the water at specific points and can dive for treasures and coins. However, I found the swim speed very slow, and the whole process just adds on to the length of what you're doing. There isn't really much exploration happening with the swimming, at least the swimming that's been featured so far. For example, the swimming is just contained in one screen and usually a small pond. You can't enter the water and then exit somewhere else to maybe access a hidden area or change screens in the water. Combat was fun in Beloved Rapture, but so far it's quite simple, as you'd expect in the first chapter of a game. You can attack, defend, use magic, items, or a Relica skill. Every time a character attacks, regardless if they hit, they gain a Relica point. These points can be spent to unleash a very powerful finishing attack. They also cost MP, and while the main character Johann's Ascendant Slash has an efficient cost of 5 MP, Zack's Cross Strike has a whopping 29 MP cost and did roughly the same amount of damage. This didn't seem very balanced, and it just made a lot more sense for Zack to be using magic instead. I really like the way that defend works in Beloved Rapture. Every time you defend, you gain HP as long as you haven't used the defend skill multiple times in a row. So if you want to heal up, you can just use defend instead of using an item, and then the next turn you can attack. You could still heal with an item, you could cast magic, but once you've taken a different action, you can then go back to defending to take less damage from incoming attacks and also heal up a little bit of HP. While I had a ton of fun in the combat for this game, it's also where I had most of my issues. When you enter combat from the overworld, the combat screens don't match where you were on the map, which felt off to me, but I understand this is a very small project, made in RPG Maker 2003, so I shouldn't expect everything to be totally polished. One thing that really bugged me though was that the game does not allow selections while attack animations are in process. This freeze feels awkward. There would be times where you're just waiting for this attack of the enemy to end, and you'd like to be selecting your skills as it is an active time battle system, but instead you have to wait until it's completely finished, and if you start selecting something but somebody else begins their attack, guess what? You're frozen out once again. You also have to select a character before you can actually use their skills, opposed to their window just popping up when it's their turn. It's small details like this that add clicks to the overall effect of the game, and that can affect how people buy into a game just through their experience. I also noticed that the last enemy that dies in battle does not have the death animation, and then upon leaving battle, the enemy still appears on the map, which was kind of confusing to me. Like, they do disappear in a second, but the timing just didn't feel right. It felt like I didn't actually kill the enemy. Finally, while on the overworld, some enemies are mandatory to fight, but others are on set paths and they can be easily avoided as they do not adjust based where you are. There's no aggro system, you just see them going in circles, and as long as you watch where they're going to go, you will never run into them. Overall, the combat loop felt repetitive, but that is understandable considering I didn't have many abilities or characters at this stage of the game. Still, I'd like to see more innovation in combat, but Maybe I'm just picky because of how much I enjoyed Sea of Stars shaking up the classic RPG battle system. As for the story, the game starts off in a prologue playing as one of the main characters, Aiden. You'll play as him again in Chapter 2, so it seems that the game will have a plot that jumps around to different parties in different places in the world as the story progresses. After the prologue is completed, you get a classic 1 year earlier tagline, and then you play as Johan, a young villager that has just come of age. Your older and more experienced buddy Zach gives you a magic sword and tries to convince you to leave town together to see what the world has to offer. After a few short dungeons and some talking, a big event goes down that forces Aiden into a conflict that he never would have imagined just a day earlier. I won't spoil what happens in the demo because I do think it's worth checking out, but I do want to say that the story held my attention all the way through. Congrats to Aaron Crawford and Andrew Spital for hooking me with this story because it's definitely what I'm most intrigued by so far in the game. When I showed my brother some screenshots of Beloved Rapture, he said, "That looks like one of those random RPG Maker games," and wasn't interested. Now, I don't disagree that it looks like it was made in RPG Maker because it was, but I do think the game looks beautiful. The terrain has tons of detail, the horizon on the highlands of Vereta are beautiful, the sprites were nostalgic for me, and I thought that all the combat animations were solid. Casting magic felt good, and the sound effects that accompanied everything were excellent. I largely enjoyed the soundtrack from the demo. Each song felt appropriate for the setting, and there were a few suspenseful songs that I really enjoyed and very much reminded me of games like Golden Sun, Wild Arms, or Breath of Fire. Not necessarily because of the style of the music, but just because of the way that the song set up the scene thick with tension. The demo absolutely left me wanting to hear more of the OST, so big props to Andreas Kotsamanidis, oh my goodness, for his work with the music and the sound effects. I also wanted to mention that I did encounter a pretty big bug in the game. At one point, I was trying to solve a puzzle by putting a rock onto a switch, and as I did so, an extra bridge appeared that I was supposed to cross, but I tried to climb a ladder while the bridge was appearing, and I was stuck. The game completely stuck me in place on the ladder. I could not leave in any way, no matter what I did, and I ended up having to load a previous save file in order to get back into the game. Now, this is hopefully something that is fixed easily, but it is worth noting that this happened to me in case that's something that is a deal breaker for you. So overall, I really enjoyed my time in the demo for Beloved Rapture. I thought it had a really solid soundtrack. Exploring was very fun, despite the movement being a little bit frustrating, and the story was genuinely intriguing for me. Honestly, that's the main reason why I would consider picking it up at this point, is to continue that story. The defending mechanic was neat. I thought timing defense adds some strategy to taking your turns, and I thought the animations looked really good in combat. However, there were some cons as well. The combat didn't flow as well as I'd like, and I think that there's just a lot of little things that could be adjusted. Like I said, with the combat screens not matching up, the character, windows freezing whenever an animation's happening, or just even having to select which character you're going to take a turn with when that could just be a left or right on the D-pad. So while I think that there are some issues with the game, I mentioned the swimming, I mentioned the bug that I encountered, overall I still think there's a ton going on in this game that is great, and that a lot of people that are classic RPG fans are really going to enjoy it. So if you're wondering whether or not I would recommend that you buy this game once it comes out, I think that you should definitely play the demo first, and I'm going to say that I am on the fence. So if I end up buying it, I'll do a full review. I'll let you guys know. I think that it could go either way for me, but based off the demo, I'm definitely interested in buying it. So I know that's not a full endorsement of the game, but maybe that's just going to give you an idea of where you'd like to go. Absolutely play the demo first, see if the story hooks you, because if it does, then I think it's going to be worth the purchase. But otherwise, I think, you know, you could also be on the fence and wait for some more reviews to come out as well. All right, that's going to be it for this video, and hopefully it was useful for you. Let me know what you think about Beloved Rapture, if it's on your wish list. Are you planning on getting it? Or maybe it wasn't your cup of tea. And otherwise, I'll see you all in the comments, and I'll see you all soon in another video.